Hello, my friends. It is Saturday, March 8th, 2025, and this is a daily brief. It looks like the intelligence sharing that has been turned off is being used by the Russians or being used to great effect to hurt the Ukrainians, both on the battlefield and overnight with missile defense. We'll talk about that in just a moment. 1,000 Russians off the battlefield. This is pretty low. Like when we look at this, we look at 1,000, and there was an average of 1191 throughout the first week of March, 1247 in the month of February, 1556 in January. So 1,000 is low. But again, it's correlated with this high number of vehicles and fuel tanks, and that's caused by drones, as far as I can understand. Okay, 4 tanks off the battlefield, 12 armored fighting vehicles, 24 artillery system, again, 113 vehicles and fuel tanks. Okay, overnight, there was a big barrage of Shahed drones. Again, 145 were launched, and replacement value daily is about 65, unless that has gone up. And so that's, better than twice what it should be. Okay, 0 of 2 Iskander ballistic missiles, so both of those got through. 1 out of 1 Iskander K cruise missile shot down. So it's not as bad as the night before. And here's the British intelligence update talking about the night before. Overnight, 6 to 7 March, Russia conducted its largest multi-axis long-range aviation strike package of 2025. That was immediately after the stopping of sharing of intelligence from the Trump administration. Alongside up to 35 AS-23A Kodiak air-launched cruise missiles, Russia also launched land attack cruise missiles from the Black Sea Fleet vessels alongside short-range ballistic missiles and more than 100 one-way attack UAVs, all of which serve to complicate and saturate Ukrainian air defense efforts. Russia continues to strike a range of targets, including the Ukrainian energy sector, predominantly gas infrastructure, seeking to exploit winter period as it attempts to demoralize the civilian population. I don't think the civilian population is going to knuckle under because of that sort of thing. But this is what it looked like. Now this might not have been last night, but this is just someone who sent me a video of when they were in Ukraine and what it was like seeing these drones go by and hearing the drones go by and that sort of thing. So you're hearing some air defense popping in the background if you're hearing anything, and then you're going to hear a hum. Hear that hum? It sounds like a moped or something. Yeah, that's them. And then if we go far enough, and I'll show you in just a moment after something has struck. Hear that hum, and then about 59 seconds out, we see this. Yeah, that flashlight, that's not the sun. And that is what the Russians are doing. Okay, last night, the Russian army struck the center of Dobrofilia in the Donetsk region with 2 ballistic missiles. This is President Zelensky saying this. After our emergency services arrived at the scene, they launched another strike, deliberately targeting the rescuers. This is a vile and inhumane intimidation tactic often used by the Russians. Tragically, at this moment, 11 people are confirmed dead. 30 people were injured, including 5 children. 8 5-story apartment buildings, an administrative facility, and a fire truck were damaged. I mean, they're targeting civilian infrastructure, and yet we're saying we just need to stop the killing rather than, no, this is a war crime. This shouldn't be happening because you can't be targeting civilians. Okay, Ben Hodges says, I'm having a hard time understanding how withholding intelligence and early warning from Ukraine advances our strategic interests or helps make America great. Yeah, I would understand if they're saying, we're not going to give you this access to battlefield planning or something, but preventing civilian deaths, I mean, and even then, when I say I understand it, I understand what Trump would be trying to accomplish, even if I disagree with it. But this is just, okay, this is what it looks like the next day. Everything is destroyed. There's another room here, and this is, yeah, you're just getting to see the aftermath of these ballistic strikes. Okay. Now, Russia doesn't want peace in Ukraine. This is a image of a chart that is going to show Shahed drones in red and missiles in black. The missiles are pretty limited, right? Except for not yesterday, it wasn't. There was a lot of them. And here's a better chart from the ISW. This one here doesn't really do its justice like the ISW chart. And here the person added Trump's inaugurated on this day. And it's reasonably, I mean, it's up and down, but it does seem like it has picked up some over the last month or so, especially after Trump's phone call and the Saudi Arabian talks. It's like it picked up, dropped off for a little bit and picked up again. So that's drone strikes. Okay, Michael McFall says, yep, a very rational response in a negotiation in which the other side gives you everything you want without asking anything in return. Logically, you ask for more. Well, that's replying to this about the Kremlin keeps escalating, according to the Wall Street Journal. Yeah, why wouldn't you escalate if you keep getting everything that you're asking for? Anton Gurashenko says this: defense intelligence of Ukraine sabotaged a locomotive involved in Russian army logistics. So this is the Ukrainians now fighting back. Overnight on March 6th, a successful operation was carried out on the railway in Voronezh, Russia. Locomotive supplied with munitions and equipment from Russian factories to the occupied territories of Ukraine. And that's not all. They also targeted an oil refinery in Russia's Leningrad Oblast, about 800 kilometers from Ukraine. And I'll show you where that is exactly in just a moment. Drones struck the Kiev oil refinery in Russia's Kurishi district overnight, causing damage to storage tank infrastructure. And so this is a little image of it. The Kiev plant in Leningrad region, Russia claims only one tank was damaged. They reported shooting down 2 drones and apparently debris caused that damage. Looks like more damage to me, but that's just me from the outside looking in. And where is it? It's up near St. Petersburg, all the way up near Finland. So that's, yeah, that they were able to strike there is the big story. Okay, let's look at the battlefield. And like I usually use Pokrovsk as an index. And I do that because Pokrovsk, only 22 attacks near Pokrovsk, is usually correlated from what I found here with this low number. Like if I see a high number here, I'm like, if it was 1,500, I'd say, okay, there's going to be 40 to 50 attacks in Pokrovsk, and it's only 22 times. And so that's what's interesting here. Okay, but the big story is Kursk and then Chasiv Yar. So let's look at Kursk first. 10,000 Ukrainian troops at risk of encirclement in the Kursk region. The occupiers have intensified their offensive after the U.S. stopped sharing intelligence with Ukraine. So what about stop sharing intelligence is affecting Kursk? Well, part of that is Maxar confirms U.S. government blocked Ukrainian access to satellite data. I talked about that yesterday. Soldiers in Kursk and near Pokrovsk described lost functionality in battle software. Some called it an inconvenience rather than a blow. I don't know if they're trying to be, brave, stiff upper lip, or if it actually is, because they've been on notice here since Trump came to office. Like, what would happen if Trump cut us off? Like, what's our backup plan? How are we going to, get whatever information they need? So they're working on that. I know that they're working on that. Okay, Dmitry at War Translated says, is Dmitry at War Translated? I'm trying to remember. All this stuff comes together so fast. It seems that ahead of potential negotiations, Putin realized the critical need to reclaim Sudzha. Even though from the outset of the Kursk operation, it was clear how important the captured territory would be for future talks, Russian Z-bloggers are actively pushing reports of Russian forces supposedly storming Sudzha, claiming that the elite of the Russian army, including the notorious Akhmat, was sent there, although this group always mysteriously disappears somehow. Like the Akhmat battalion, like the guy's funny. When you get an interview, he's like always talking about how, we are the mighty Akhmat and they tremble in fear us, but then he never shows up in time to actually fight. So, okay. But they are looking at Sudzha. They are putting pressure on Sudzha. From what I understand, in Sudzha, it's stabilized there. Like they're not encircled, but there's tremendous pressure there. Here's a little bit more from Andrew Perpetua. For weeks, Ukrainian logistics in Kursk have suffered severe damage from drone attacks. So that alone, let alone the extra pressure, would have been difficult enough. These strikes seem to be linked to an organization within the Russian military called the Rubicon Center of Advanced Unmanned Systems. Listen, I want to make it very clear. As much as I talk about drones and focus on what the Ukrainians are doing with the drones, the other side's doing it too. This was established by Putin in August of 2024. In mid-January and early February, Rubicon began releasing videos from Kursk. Initially, they shared occasional footage showing isolated vehicle strikes, but suddenly they started posting large volumes of hits, dozens of destroyed vehicles of all types, including pickup trucks, vans, Max Pros, Bradleys, BMPs. The exact nature of Rubicon remains unclear. It's uncertain whether they operate as a single unit or a large coordinated force, or if they source videos from multiple existing drone groups. What is known is that Rubicon focuses on three main areas. Kursk, that's what we're talking about there. Pokrovsk, that's what the Russians want most other than Kursk. And Vilka Novosilka. However, their most intense and damaging operations are concentrated in Kursk. Rubicon employs advanced drone tactics. They often target short sections of road 100 to 300 meters long and saturate these areas with drones. They also set traps by landing drones on roads, detonating them under passing vehicles, functioning like anti-tank mines, likely using upward-facing shaped charges. Okay, the Rubicon's drones are notably difficult to jam. The scale of the damage in Kursk is significant. Hundreds of vehicles have been destroyed. So that's where they are in Kursk. So the decision to suspend the flow of military intelligence to Ukraine this week has aided the Russian advance along critical part of the front, weakening the negotiation of President Zelensky and killing many Ukrainian soldiers. Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. Like this has been a big blow to the Ukrainians. It's not going to make them stop fighting, and they have the strength to fight on for quite some time. They have the financial resources to fight on through the end of 2025. But I keep reading about how there's going to be a huge spring offensive from the Russians coming up. And so it's going to be another defensive fight for the Ukrainians, who are going to be rationing their shells and rationing their weapons and artillery and drones and whatever else. Okay, again, war translated. According to the Russian sources, they're bogged down and suffering serious losses in Chasiv Yar. This is that the Russians are on the defensive in Chasiv Yar due to Ukraine's significant drone advantage there. The use of armored vehicles is extremely limited. It's so interesting that a little tiny drone can blow up a tank. I mean, it's fascinating. Electronic warfare is ineffective due to the rapid adaptation of Ukrainian armed forces. And a little bit more on that. Seems like the Russians threw all their leftover equipment that they had gathered for the final push in Chasiv Yar, over 20 units. The assault was repelled, and you can see like where they're going, and you can see it from the drone camera, the image of the drone up in the sky watching what's going on. And it's pretty interesting to see. Okay, just shifting gears just a little bit. This happens periodically. They get this out, but it's unfortunate it's still happening. Ukraine SBU exposed FSB mole in the space agency. He was leaking secret satellite images and data on strategic enterprise to Russia. He was detained during a meeting at the Ministry of Strategic Industries, and he's been charged with treason. Every so often, we'll find another one of these, and yeah, that's where we are. Okay, I'll leave you with this image of a drone operator. And with that, I want to say this. I received a postcard at my university yesterday. Dear Professor Gerdes, I'm interested. Please reply to, and he gave me what to reply to. This is the postcard. It's a very kind of pretty postcard. Look at that. I'm a retired computer security engineer with a broad background in computer science. I'm not going to read his name, but this is somebody trying to get a hold of me to say, yeah, I want to be part of this. Okay, so I reached out about a week ago about Technology United for Ukraine. If you go to technologyforukraine.com, you'll see an image like this, and you can sign up to volunteer. Now, we're trying to group people together. I have a lot of people right now in a targeted group that we're going to try to figure out, okay, what skills do we bring to bear and how can we effectively employ them? So volunteer, you'll get put in that group, mention my name along the line so they know like where you came from here. And like, I'm not getting a kickback or something. There's no financial value to this. This is not a fundraiser. This is if you want to use whatever skills you have. If you have some technological skills or engineering skills, eventually, I mean, like, look, honestly, even if you're in like social media or something, you might be able to be useful here in whatever the efforts are. Eventually, I'm also going to ask for, and this is not right now, but ask for those that have leadership and management skills for working with other activities related here. But right now what we're trying to do is, like in Jim Collins from Good to Great, you know, get the right people on the bus and then figure out where the bus is going to go. That's what we're doing right now, trying to figure out what skills we have so that we can bring those skills to bear. All right, my friends, that's all that I have right now. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.